Hi guys, welcome to lesson 2, which is focusing on market demand. Markets refer to the interaction between demand and supply, and the point at which these two curves intersect determines the price, which is called market equilibrium. Let's take a closer look at the demand curve. This shows us the amount of goods consumers are willing and able to buy at a given price. It needs to be backed up by the ability to pay. This is called effective demand rather than intended demand. So we can see that the demand curve is downward sloping, and there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity. The law of demand is that as price increases, quantity demanded falls. We can see this on the diagram. As we move from P1 to P2, quantity demanded falls from Q1 to Q2. Remember, changes in price cause a movement along the demand curve, not a shift. A price increase would cause a contraction in demand, but a price decrease would cause an expansion in demand. Changes in factors other than the price of the product itself will affect the demand curve. Let's take a closer look at what these factors could be. The first factor is called the income effect. The idea behind the income effect is that as the price of a product falls, consumers' purchasing power increases. Let's take a quick example. Imagine you had a £20 note and the price of cupcakes were 50p each. You could purchase 40 cakes. What if the price of cupcakes fell to 25p each? Now you can buy 80 cakes and your purchasing power has increased. This is called the income effect. Normal goods see an increase in demand as income increases, and some examples include items of clothing or essential food items. Inferior goods, on the other hand, see a fall in demand as income increases. So typically, as income increases, people use less public transport and they buy less tinned or canned food. Another factor that affects the demand curve are changes in tastes and preferences. Let's take a current example of COVID-19. Due to the pandemic, there is now a huge demand for masks and gloves. This shifts the demand curve for gloves and face masks out to the right. Advertising is also another factor that can affect the demand curve. For example, big brands such as Amazon or P&G, which owns Olay, Aussie Hair, and Pampers, spend huge amounts on advertising, which helps increase sales and shift the demand curve out to the right. Seasonal factors such as the weather can also shift demand. During the summer season, there is an increased demand for things like ice cream, flip-flops, and beach towels. Expectations of future prices can also cause the demand curve to shift. If consumers expected the price of tea to increase, they may purchase more. This in turn increases demand for tea, causing a shift in the demand curve to the right. Changes in the price of complementary goods can also affect demand. These are goods which are consumed or used together. For example, a PlayStation and a gaming controller, milk and cereal, or toothpaste and a toothbrush. If the price of one of these complementary goods fell, consumers would increase the purchase of both goods. This is because they are interlinked and used together. If the price of toothpaste fell dramatically, the demand for toothbrushes would increase, causing a shift in the curve to the right. The next factor is a change in the price of substitutes. This is often called the substitution effect. If the price of Tango increased, consumers can substitute this for Fanta. This would shift the demand curve for Fanta out to the right. The price of unrelated goods can also cause a shift in demand. A simple example would be if the price of petrol increased, you would have less income to spend on food items like chocolate. Let's summarize. So we know that the demand curve is downward sloping, and any changes in price cause a movement along the curve. Factors that affect the demand curve include the income effect, changes in tastes and preferences, including seasonal factors and advertisement, the expectation of future prices, the price of complements and substitutes.